Houston, we have a problem as Bitcoin comes back down to the range lows, not actually effectively or officially breaking anything major just yet. However, there are setups that are now turning in favor of the downside. And as we've been saying on this channel, the longer that Bitcoin kind of stays around this, upper teens region, that without, really breaking out above about 121, the more and more likely it is going to result in a bit of a downside move. Now, I'm not saying things are all over or anything like this, but I would exercise a bit of caution kind of coming up in this next like 2 to 3 week spread. Anyways, we'll start it off as always with a revisiting of the daily statistics using the historical price action statistics indicator. We can see that Friday is actually one of the most likely days to close positively alongside Monday at just over 54% of all Fridays closing positively since the bull market began in 2023. And the average returns for those positive closing Fridays a little bit more on the lower side, I would say, just above 2%. On the other side for the losing Fridays, losing about 70%. Again, in terms of actual ranges and what that equates to on price action, we can see to the upside, which I think is rather unlikely to happen today, but hey, have to keep an open mind as long as, major regions aren't actually broken, which we'll go over a little bit later. It's basically the same as these past week's major pivots, but that would be about 121. And to the downside, we're looking at about 116,350. So kind of where Bitcoin's at right now. That does imply that if you are more or less optimistic about this current pullback, then you really shouldn't be expecting Bitcoin to really close or really even go below today's low thus far, which is already down, in the 114s? Yeah, 114,777, somewhere around there. But yes, ultimately, while I do think Bitcoin has a little bit more of a bias towards perhaps a downside resolution here, I actually don't think it's going to happen today. I still think that Bitcoin, can mount another small bounce over the weekend. It'd be classic. Close maybe a little bit red on Friday, over the weekend, small bounce. Everyone gets really excited, and then perhaps the move actually begins next week, kind of directly in alignment with the timing that we were looking for this if things were going to turn to the south side. But I want to bring up the biggest, most important signal, the one that massively is controversial. However, it continues to work, and that is the moon. So witches have done it again. These bitches can't be getting away with this shit any longer. And I should actually let you know that I do post about this quite often on Twitter, is where I like to do my old trolling, but I do, a little bit more, I guess, pertinent market updates, if you want to call it that. My handle on Twitter, I think it's just Crown, or is it Crown's Crypto Cave? Whatever the fuck it is, you can figure it out. Anyways, maybe I perhaps put that in the link of my YouTube description. That might be a good idea. Anyways, the traditionally downside moon has fired off now. It's a new moon, and the vibes are very low, guys. Very, very low vibes, meaning that price also goes lower. No, not always, but generally speaking, when we do see even at minimum a corrective period, or of course at maximum a reversal period, this almost always happens during these sort of darker moons right here, as you can see. Out of the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 iterations of this signal, I would say 5 of those have resulted in decent downside. 5 of them have resulted in new lows on the current trend, and 4 of those were actually really well timed, I would say. Anyways, yes. So what does that mean? Well, Bitcoin is experiencing this new moon right here as of a couple days ago. This officially fired off yesterday. I think I forgot to mention it on yesterday's video. Maybe I just made a Twitter post about it. Either which way, is this going to lead more into? Is this more likely to lead into at least a corrective period, maybe some downside as well? Yes. And traditionally speaking, we do experience about if it is going to be a downside period, somewhere around 10 to 14%. On average, move to the downside. And in the event that these do fail, which of course they can, we saw one fail over here and another fail over here, I'd say, those can lead into actually like nice breakouts. But as of right now, so kind of exercise caution with this. Just for reference, if Bitcoin were to come down, 10-ish% from that moon, the bold moon, that'd put it back down around about 107-ish region. That's actually a very, very important number. We'll come back to it a little bit later. Still relevant to the hash ribbons potential setup that we spoke about in yesterday's video. Also not firing off necessarily just yet. Need to bring up my damn notes over here because I'm only working with one screen, so I gotta use my fucking phone for this shit. Really inconvenient, and even worse when I don't prepare it in advance. But yeah, there's your moons. Let's get into some actual ranges, talk about objective areas. It's more or less the same as before, to be fair. Daily time frame here for the price action pivots indicator is getting this, in my opinion, exactly perfectly. To the top side, we're still looking at about, you could probably move the 121 resolution down to about a 120 level, or sorry, that was relevant to CME. So yeah, for spot price action direction. Still 120 to the upside if Bitcoin can start to move back above there and particularly close above there on a daily time frame. You know, it's rally mode back on. You're probably looking at new all-time highs, 125 to 130-ish region, something like this. But I do think it's a little bit less likely to happen right now. On the other end, still to the downside and very, very close to actually breaking. Although, like I said, I don't think it actually happens today. I think if it's going to happen, it probably happens next week. Is going to be effectively the 115,700-ish number. Closure below there, or basically the yellow 21 EMA on the daily time frame. And yeah, I would say Bitcoin is ready for its next sort of, 5 to 8% dumpola. So yeah, as of right now, momentum oscillators are turning pretty much in unison to the downside. The daily time frame, as we referenced yesterday, is continuing to the downside right here. 120 is a pivot, so not only is that a breakout resolution point, but it's also a momentum pivot point. Yes, we do have this sort of trendline regression coming in, but that's obviously much lower than where that stochastic oscillator is currently positioned. So, you know, even if it is going to work out, it'd still imply like another day or two, yeah, at least another couple days of downside before it fulfills that trendline regression test. But I don't know how much I trust this one to begin with. On the other side, on the other time frames, like the 2-day time frame, this one is also going to be heading down in unison. The pivot is 120 here. I think we're going to see that number a lot. 3-day time frame is also going to be heading down freshly below 121. This one is closing tomorrow night. The 5-day time frame, which by the way just closed last night, is having a couple of major things here. The pivot has actually moved down a little bit from yesterday's video, but price action moved down with it, so it's not necessarily a good sign. Now it is 118,700, but more importantly is that you're kind of seeing this one start to wear out its welcome in the critical zone. You know, being in the critical zone is typically a good thing, you know, and that really was the majority of this rally from like 100 all the way to 123. But once you kind of wear out your welcome, you come down, especially below that critical line, you know, that's no longer rally mode or you know, bullish bias mode, at least for myself. You know, you can do what the fuck you want to do at the end of the day. I'm not your dad. I'm just here to give my stupid opinions on the internet for better or worse, hopefully backed by statistics, because, well, that's the only thing that matters in my opinion anyways. And you can make the decisions for yourself on top of that. Now, we will go over the 5-day setup a little bit later, but obviously this is a kind of a prelude to it, and, well, you know, it's not going to be to the upside right now. So yeah, you know, we see daily, 2-day, 3-day, and 5-day all working in the same angle. Even the weekly time frame is kind of coming under question here. 115 is a pivot, but that will update again on Sunday. The bi-weekly time frame not closing this week, closing next week, currently pivoted at 118,600. So this is starting to look a little bit more suspect to me. What about the monthly? Actually, I haven't checked this one. Oh, the monthly is very likely to continue up here. So yeah, I guess still the very long term is still okay, I suppose. But yeah, I suppose like the next few weeks, you know, the next couple of weeks, personally, I'd be a little bit more on the cautious side. But technically, if you want to be, you know, by the book, you'd be waiting for an actual break of 115,700. And at that point, you know, you're probably looking at the implied move at least from that resolution, which would be pointed down almost directly in alignment with the green 55 EMA. And that is about 110, 111-ish region. I think you'd probably get to about 110. Still doesn't destroy your trend overall. I mean, that still would be a higher low. But, you know, that's a decent move. And I mean, $5,000 move is a $5,000 move at the end of the day. And, you know, $13,000 off of the high. Sounds fucking crazy, right? Anyways, yeah, so we got that. Okay, yeah, and then let's revisit the hash ribbons indicator, and then we'll get into the big one. But where's my hash? Where's my hash, bro? Actually, no. This is not the one I want to look at. This is the one I want to look at. Hash capitulation. Yes, there we go. That's what I want to see. So a reminder that this hash ribbons potential signal is actually, I don't think it's confirmed yet, at least according to this indicator. I think it might repaint, but more importantly, it's also not supported by the 5-day time frame, which we generally, oh, it is actually starting to show now. Holy shit. Okay, so the new 5-day open actually has started to print this one. So we do see these kind of far enough in unison, but this 5-day time frame needs to confirm first. And seeing as it just closed last night, we needed to wait another 4.5 days. So it's going to be a long time, man. It's very possible that this will actually undo itself by the time that time frame closes. But, you know, for right now, I guess that's a little bit of optimism because if both of these do fire off, I'd feel extremely confident. Okay, maybe not extremely confident, but very, very high probability. Again, you know, lower than 20% probability that it fails without referencing the statistics in front of my face. that, Bitcoin could come down somewhere around 105 to 107, but that'd still be a likely good area, let's say, for another higher low. Remember, it's all about once these blue buy signals actually confirm that we reference the most recent trending higher low, and that would be, I think the safe one is about 105 here. If you want to be a little more aggressive, 107. So theoretically, price could come all the way back down around these regions. And put in a higher low there. And, I think it'd probably spend most of August doing something like that. Maybe it looks something like this. Blah, 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 blah. Everyone gets super scared. Trades its way sideways. Kind of like summer of 2023 and then tries another upside move. That, to me, would look really fucking good. But, of course, we're pontificating here. And even this one is still projecting 3 days. So I think that this actually does get undone. But we shall see. I think that comes in on Monday, I suppose. And then the 5-day should follow through right after that. So we'll know by next week. But right now, personally, I do have a little bit more of a downside bias with a short-term pending bounce over the weekend. If we do go to maybe the 4-hour time frame, how high can this thing bounce? Oh, it could easily bounce back up to like almost 118, I think. 117.5 to 118. Again, bearish bias here, even on the 4-hour time frame, as long as you're below the most recent price action pivot at 119.550. So yeah, a lot of room to kind of play around there. Bitcoin's fucking volatile. We all know this. All right, cool. So we got that. Yeah, I want to end it on this. So the 5-day time frame, again, taking big precedence here because the 5-day volatility versus stochastic momentum setup is, it's ripe. It's really, really ripe. We can see 5-day BBWP continues up here. So I do think that this will at minimum be a shallow downside resolution. That's coming alongside of, the 5-day stochastic oscillator continuing to the downside. Again, 118,600 is a pivot. So, it's if I have to choose the direction right now in the short term, it's going to be very, very short term bounce, but likely next week, try to the downside. But, coming back down, 15 to like 25% off of a signal like this, that brings you down to 107 or even 104, 105. So that brings us right into that zone where we still can fulfill the hash derps over here and play out this guy over here. And it's just going to take naturally longer. And I think that this fits in well with my sort of philosophy for this cycle that I've been espousing for the past, feels like a long time now, but it's really been only since, I guess, the ETF came out. Oh, I guess that was like a year and a half ago. But the sort of philosophy that I've been espousing for this particular cycle is that Bitcoin has had a detectable change of behavior. And what do I mean by a change of behavior? Well, Bitcoin is acting more like an ETF. It trades more like an ETF because, now it has ETFs. That would be one reason, perhaps. But just the evidence is right in front of our face. We have a change of behavior here. What is it? Bitcoin has had a history throughout this current cycle since 2023 of having these very explosive upside moves, but very short-lived, a couple weeks at most, and then many months of sideways price action. So we saw this one over here in 2023. Boom, big move up, consolidate sideways for like 6 months, then another massive explosion over here, consolidate sideways for about a month and a half, then boom, big move up, 7-month consolidation right here, big move up, 7-month consolidation right here, big move up again. Maybe we get like a month and a half long consolidation over here just because this move wasn't like that aggressive to the upside. Something like this. But, my point is that ETFs typically trade kind of in like tight ranges with steps ups and then steps down, but not like these massive parabolic moves in either direction. If they're going to be big moves just in terms of like dollar numbers, just because, we're dealing with a big number here, being that it is trading at 116 right now. But, when you're trading like an ETF, you got to understand that a lot of these hedge funds, a lot of these big money managers, they trade much differently than the average crypto herpity-derp. And the way that they do things is they're going to have like a mandate basically to sell on like a, 10, 15, 20% move, for example, something like this. I don't know exactly what there's going to be. And obviously everyone has different proclivities for this, but something like that. And then, if price goes down in the opposite direction, 10, 15, 20%, they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to buy because it's like 10% down. So I think that Bitcoin's volatility is getting massively crushed here, in my opinion. And I think that that's very much evidenced as well by the Bitcoin volatility index. You can see that it's actually at lows comparable to August of 2023 right now, January of 2023, November of 2020. May of 2019 and even January of 2017. So yeah, and I expect this to kind of continue to trend down, to be honest with you, just because of that fact. we really do see a change in behavior here. Whereas prior cycles, for example, it was just like one parabolic blow off top after the high was breached, and then after that, it was game over. So this one breaks it over here, boom, all the way up. I mean, yes, it consolidates here, but it was over, right? This one over here breaks it right here in May, and then boom, straight move up, and then yeah, it was just over. There was no like multi-month long consolidations along the way, anything like that. So, I do think that this continues to verify my sort of theory that is, that relationship is broken now. So yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it for today. Again, no videos over the weekend. I'll upload some YouTube shorts, maybe do another not fundamental video, but like a financial education video. I've really been enjoying these. It's actually kind of unfortunate right now that I can't produce more because I'm still traveling around, but soon I will have a dedicated setup, which I'm very, very excited about. And I'll get back to work on all that because that's kind of like my new sort of obsession right now, as automation has kind of taken over all my trading, and I'm starting to switch into even more of a long-term investor, I guess, at this point as well. So, it's time to explore new horizons. But yeah, I'll never stop doing, the short-term videos like this just because, I mean, look, I've fucking spent well over a decade learning this shit. Like, I'm not just gonna fucking throw it away right there, right? Keeps the sword sharp. Anyways, if you're interested in any one of these tools or services, you can try out pretty much anything for free for at least 7 days for any new user with the link in the description below for Teachable. That would be the price action pivots. That would be everything in the caretaker indicator suite, which includes, not only the historical price action statistics indicator, but the HPDR and all the other good caretaker related stuff like the RSI. And of course, you got the quantum wave bounds and the Quant Prime AI for automated base or automation enthusiasts. And then what else? Oh yeah, I spoke about it very briefly the other day. I'll come up with another video in the not so distant future. But I did get a fucking sweet deal with BitUnex, which is a no KYC, no VPN exchange, which specifically allows Americans, which is super unique. They even have a U.S. FinCEN license, so they can actually operate like legally, which is really nice. Don't have to fucking move around like a goddamn criminal anymore, which is pretty coll. And that link is in the description below for you. And what's most important about that link is actually it will lock in a lifetime 33% discount on your fees for futures trading, which is that's more than double the best thing that we had before. So pretty damn good right there. I haven't tried it out too much, so do exercise caution with it. I'll be able to try it out a lot more in the coming week or coming, I'd say, 10 days, and then I'll actually have my own sort of takes on it and my own sort of videos on it. But yeah, we'll leave it right there. Enough shilling for one day. As always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Monday.